How do I deal with that craving and that urge that comes over me so powerfully? How do I not go act out sexually or go to the sex club or go on Grinder for 16 hours or go get high on crystal meth and go to a meth party? How do I not do that? How do I fight that feeling and not act out in those behaviors? And that's an interesting question. And you may have that question as well. And I think that that's the wrong question. From my experience, the question is wrong. There is a question, but that's not the right question. Hey guys, I'm behavioral health and sex addiction recovery coach Rob Lopicola, and I'm grateful to have you here today. So welcome. I want to talk with you today about your sex addiction and or your methamphetamine addiction. Many meth addicts also have a fused relationship with sex addiction. And if you're battling with either one or both of these, this is a great stop for you today to watch this video. I want to talk with you about urges, cravings that come up from time to time, even when you're trying to stay free, stay sober from sexually compulsive behaviors and methamphetamine use. And if you're like most meth addicts and sex addicts, you may find that you courageously battle with the addiction, and you may experience periods of time where you are not getting high on meth or acting out in your sexually compulsive behaviors. But you find that you repeatedly go back to those behaviors, go back to the methamphetamine using, and you seem to not be able to sustain long-term sobriety. And this ultimately will lead to hopelessness, despair, self-loathing, self-hatred, failure, feeling like you're unworthy and less than, and you're never going to get a handle on this addiction. And you battle with it repeatedly for months or years or decades, to no avail. And you get to the point where you just feel hopeless. You feel like this is who you are, the way it has always been and the way it always will be. You are an addict when it comes to sex and meth. And you get to the point where you feel like there is no escape. Well, I'm here to tell you there is an escape. You can break free from either of these addictions. It takes some effort, it takes some diligence, it takes commitment, and it takes dedication to change. But what I want to talk with you about today is the urges and cravings that come up from time to time. Have you ever experienced a short period of time where you don't act out your sexually compulsive behaviors, the sex addiction, you don't get high on crystal meth, you remain sober for a little while, but yet there comes that day when the cravings and the urges crop up so strong, so powerful, that you feel possessed by this feeling and a pull to go to the sex club or go on Grindr or Tinder or Bumble and meet someone to hook up with, or call your drug dealer or go online and try to find a meth party somewhere so you could get high. That craving, that desire, that urge that just comes over you so powerfully that you feel there's no escape. And you once again return to the very drugs and behaviors you promised yourself and maybe others you will not go there again, and you do again and again, and you're to the point where you just feel totally hopeless and desperate, and you feel as though you'll never escape the grip of these addictions. Well, I'm here to tell you that I have broken free from compulsive sexual behavior and methamphetamine addiction. I was severely addicted to sex, alcohol, and methamphetamine. Chemsex was my scene for a long period of time, and many years ago I fell victim to all the consequences of my sex and meth addiction. And today I'm here to help you break the spell from your sex and meth addiction as well. Many people feel as though they are fighting the addiction. I have received this question so many times from men that I coach. How do I deal with that craving and that urge that comes over me so powerfully? How do I not go act out sexually or go to the sex club or go on Grindr for 16 hours or go get high on crystal meth and go to a meth party? How do I not do that? How do I fight that feeling and not act out in those behaviors? And that's an interesting question. And you may have that question as well. And I think that that's the wrong question. From my experience, the question is wrong. There is a question, but that's not the right question. The question is, and I want you to hear this and I want you to think about it. I'm going to ask the question that should be asked, and I'm going to be quiet for about 5 seconds because I want you to really think about it. The question is not, how do I deal with that intense craving and urge that overtakes me, that possesses me, where I feel compelled to go get high on meth or act out sexually? The question is, how do I deal and cope with me? See, that's the question. How do you cope with you? It's not about fighting and battling the addiction. It's about learning how to deal with your feelings, with your trauma, with your emotions, to deal with all of those feelings that you have been suppressing for years, feelings you have been running from perhaps since childhood. Were you abandoned as a child? Were you molested or raped? Were you unloved? Did your parents leave you and you felt all alone? Were you battling with loneliness and inferiority and self-loathing and hating yourself? Did you feel like you didn't fit in? And those feelings escalated as you got older. And then ultimately, when you found what you thought was a solution, getting high on crystal meth, getting drunk on alcohol, or acting out sexually and getting involved in sexually compulsive behaviors, in some form, you believed that it saved you and you felt better. And you discovered that, wow, getting high or hooking up and having sex and going to sex clubs makes me feel better. And you discovered that when you're uncomfortable, that's what you run to, you feel better. But it's an illusion. It's an illusion because you don't feel better. Because after you get high on meth or act out in your sexually compulsive behaviors, you self-loathe and you hate yourself and you have regret and shame. And shame's a biggie, and guilt. And you talk down to yourself and you feel even more lonely and more inferior. So in essence, the very behaviors or substances that you believe is helping you deal with discomfort is actually making it worse. So the question isn't, how do I fight the urge for sex and methamphetamine? The question is, how do I deal with me? And when you come to terms with dealing with all of that stuff that you have been burying for so long, then you will experience a changed life, a transformed way of living, a new design for living that will work for you productively and will help you sustain, maintain, and save your marriage, your relationships, your reputation, your career and your future, your health, all of that. When you learn how to deal with you. A question I pose to you is, when you are in a evening or a weekend or a day when those urges and cravings come so powerfully over you, where they feel like they're possessing you on some level, and you feel compelled to act on those urges and cravings, what would happen if you didn't? And I want you to think about that. And I don't want you to intellectualize that, because intellectually you could say, well, ultimately nothing. I'll be okay. See, that's intellectualizing it. I want you to feel. While you're listening to me now, I want you to think about that craving and urge that comes over you so strongly at times, when you're really trying to change, but that feeling comes so powerful. What would happen if you did nothing? If you didn't act out, if you didn't go get high, how will you feel? And that's what I want you to really get. How will you feel? Probably extremely anxious. You'd probably be fidgety. Your heart rate would go up. You might get sweaty. You might have insomnia. a lot of anxiety. I think I said that already, but you'd have a lot of anxiety. Your thoughts would be racing. You'd probably feel very lonely, and you'd feel so uncomfortable in your own skin. Think how so difficult it would be to just be and not go to the sex club, go on a hookup site, or go get high. Just be. You know how uncomfortable you'd be, right? That sort of agony that you'd be feeling. Now, I want you to understand something very significant. You've been running for so long from so much of your pain, whatever that pain is, wherever it came from, childhood, years ago, whatever it is that you have inside of you that is painful, that's what's coming up. It's that stuff coming up that's making you feel fidgety, stressed, anxious, sweaty, racing thoughts, heart rate increase, insomnia. It's that stuff. So the question isn't, when that urge and that craving gets so powerful, how do I fight that and not act out on those urges? The question is, how do I just be and be with me? And I want to help you with that. I want to help you learn new ways to cope with life, to cope with all that stuff you're running from. The illusion is you feel you need to run to the sex and methamphetamine. The reality is you're running from the pain deep inside of you that's welling up, and you just don't know how to deal with it. And it's expressing itself in physical pain and discomfort, and perhaps emotional pain and discomfort. But to start with, to get a handle on your sex addiction, I want you to watch my free 10-step strategy session. It's a 30-minute strategy session. It's 10 steps, 10 strategies that is going to help you really take a look at you, why you want to change your life, and how really to understand the part of you that is sex addicted. Now, this specific 10-step strategy session doesn't go into methamphetamine, but you can use those 10 steps and strategies with sex addiction and incorporate the meth addiction as well. So please watch that 10-step strategy session. It's going to begin leading you in the right direction. And after you watch the 30-minute strategy session, you can apply for my 30-day Sex Addicts Recovery and Transformation Accelerator program. It's a 30-day program that will completely change and transform your life. But before you even consider investing in a program like that, I want you to set up a complimentary 45-minute coaching call with me. 45-minute strategy session to really take a look at your sex addiction and where you are now, where you want to be. And I'm going to offer you some strategies to get there in addition to the 10 strategies in the strategy session. So that's my offer for you. I'm inviting you to take advantage of this. It'll help you. It'll begin your transformation to escape the grip of what seems to be horrifying, this meth and sex addiction that you have been dealing with for so long. I am so grateful that I am free from the grip of meth addiction and sex addiction for well over a decade, many years. And I wouldn't trade this life that I have today for that life ever again. And this life is wonderful. And I want to give you hope that your life will change. Your life can be utterly amazing. And when you experience truly a life where you are grounded and centered and have power, you're self-empowered, and you can make healthy decisions and express yourself healthy sexually, healthy sexual expression, free from shame, guilt, and isolation. And I've experienced that in my life. I've witnessed it. And I love it. And I want to help you get there too. So please Watch the free 10-step strategy session. I post a new video here every Tuesday as well. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button and hit the like. I post a new video here every Tuesday for you to give you strategies and techniques to change your life. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday.